What's going on, Gooners and Goonerettes? I thought it's time I catch up with you now all the dam is broken and everything is sort of let loose. Welcome to Gabriel Jesus, having scored 95 goals in 236 appearances for City. He was shown around London Coney and the Emirates Stadium for the first time as an Arsenal player. And there's some of you who dislike Arteta's management style, you've made that very clear. But for those of you who aren't on board with it, Gabriel had a few words to say for you. And that was that he loves his manager and he's played with him before. He's had a great experience on and off the field. And that's got to speak volumes for all those people who can see the changes and the uplift in this team. Now, Arteta himself has revealed that there are many other qualities that prompted him to move for Gabriel Jesus. And we know that because of his off-the-ball movement defensively, which we've seen in Eddie Nketiah. Arteta also said that he has a winning mentality and that will raise standards, something that is much needed at Arsenal. This reminded me of the loss against Newcastle when Xhaka came out and said them guys wasn't listening to the manager and they didn't facilitate the game plan. It just goes to show you that as much as we were a young team and we were being successful in what we were doing, you cannot get over the line unless you have them older veteran players who know how to get it done. And you do need to bring players in who knows how to play with the discipline in a system. And we were just lacking that last season. And the veterans that we had tried to depend on had just let the team down before that. So we are now in sort of phase two. And Arteta said from day one he has shown the passion, the anger. This reminds me of Thierry Henry, the anger. And the decisiveness that every time he was doing something on the field, he made it special. Now, he has a different level of experience. He's won a lot of titles. He's gone through difficult patches as well, where he hasn't played a lot of football. And Arteta says we need to get that right balance between the players in the first phase of their development, as well as those that are starting to hit the peak of their career. So it's very good that we're mixing that dynamic. Arteta goes on to say we have a very, very dynamic team up front. We have 3 or 4 players who can play in various positions and play with each other in different positions. We want to be unpredictable, but at the same time, we want to be specific in certain areas and to achieve certain qualities that we didn't have in the squad last season. Now, a little bit about Gabriel Jesus. He grew up in Jardin, Perry, a tough, uncompromising place outside of Sao Paulo. He was the youngest of 4 children, raised by his mother, Vera Lucia, who worked as a housekeeper and remains his biggest influence today. Now, some of you have sent some pictures on Twitter of him kicking the ball around as a poor teenager trying to just find a game of football to facilitate his love. And it just goes to show how far he's come from there. Now, Man City fans, I've seen them saying they're absolutely gutted to lose him. And if they lose him and Sterling, they would have lost 2 of their hardest workers off the ball. Now, we know with Eddie Nketiah, his famous goal celebration to call him if you need a goal. But Jesus' one means something different. His telephone celebration after each goal, after he scores, is a reference to the close contact he has with his mother and the tattoo on his right arm and leg depicting a young boy holding a football looking over the favela with the words Jardin Perry sketched in large symbols. Now, the bond he has of his birthplace is very strong, and it shows he's a very courageous person, plays football at a high intensity, does not give up on the pitch. And Pep Guardiola says in this world of football, there is one person who deserves the best in life. For him, for his family and friends, and it's Gabriel Jesus. Now, for Mikel Arteta's side, they've been crying out for a striker. But is Jesus the solution to their long-standing problem? On paper, the answer is yes. But I'd like to think of it as something different. I would like to see him play out wide left, and I'd like to see Nketiah in the middle. And there's 2 reasons for that. Nketiah is just going to get you goals in the middle no matter what you do. But on the flip side of that, we weren't getting enough from the left-hand side. And I think if you can put him there, then he can facilitate that role. And while Aubameyang was scoring 20 goals a season from the left, he wasn't doing that much outside of being off the ball. Gabriel Jesus will change that. He'll be dynamic off the ball. He'll be creative off the ball. And that would just, for me, complement a different front line with Saka, Nketiah and Jesus. That's how I would play it going into the season. But we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, for me, guys, he's just 25. Now, any deal worth 50 million is usually considered a bargain these days. With so many of the top level players going for 100 million, none of them have got Gabriel Jesus' pedigree or his experience at the top level. And like I said, he was Man City's best player in their Champions League run and their game against Real Madrid. Arsenal are buying a striker whose best years are still ahead of him. With a 5-year contract, he'll be 30 by the time that ends, which gives Arsenal plenty of time for him to thrive there. Back in Holland today, let's talk about Lisandro Martinez. He is back in Holland. He had a meeting with his team and he's saying, look, I'm being very clear with Ajax, telling the club that he only wants to leave to play in the Premier League. Now, some of you are thinking, if Ten Hag wants him, why would he go to Arsenal? So, look, he's got a choice between Arsenal and Man United with both their proposals, hoping that Ajax would let him go. And I think you only have to look at the games that we played against Man United this season and be sure he'll be looking at that too. In a way that we should have won the first game at Old Trafford. I know Odegaard scored, but he did give away a penalty. And in the second game, when we dominated the game, and even though Ronaldo scored, that came out of nowhere. Arsenal just dominated the game. So if he's looking at which team have I got the best chance of getting into the Champions League with, I think it's going to be Arsenal. And he does say he's a big admirer of Mikel Arteta and he loves what he does. So I think that is going to be a swinger if he does decide to choose Arsenal. But it's not over yet, guys. We're going to have to play this one out. But I like the fact that it's the player's choice. The team will let him go as long as the bid is, amicable enough. The team will let him go. So we're not in a situation like we were in, like with Rafinha, where he already done his business long time ago in March, and his mind was made up then, and we got all these teams just falling over each other to try and bag him when his heart's somewhere else. With Lisandro Martinez, it's a different story here. It's one where you can give the player the choice of where he wants to be. So we just look, if he comes to us, he comes to us. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But it's not fair for the fan base to then say Arsenal failed. Yeah, because this is down to the players. They've got nothing to do with how Man United and Arsenal have facilitated their business. They've gone about it very professionally, but this one is in the hands of the player and the agent. So whatever will be, will be. As for the strike force, I just wanted to I get a lot of questions in terms of, who do I think was the best striker in the Premier League era for the Emirates Stadium. So I just want to give you my top 5. And you have to kind of go with the goals in some of them. So my number 1 is going to be Van Persie, who did score 34 goals at the Emirates in one season in all competitions. My number 2 is going to be Adebayor, who scored 31 goals after the season that Thierry Henry left. I really did love Adebayor. Such a talented player. He can do it everything in the box, outside of the box. He could score various different ways. And that brings me up to my next player, who was Giroud. 21 goals, but he could just do a lot in terms of his hold-up play. And he was that guy who he wasn't going to really come out and press and do all of that stuff, although he did try that in the latter part of his Arsenal career. But in the box, he was a big, stout figure, 6'4", and he could do a lot for you there, and we don't have that anymore and haven't had that since. 4th is Aubameyang, who has scored 22 goals. He tied Mane and Vardy for the Golden Boot in one season. But he comes in at my number 4. And my number 5 is Lacazette, who the most he scored was 18 goals. Okay player, but that's my top 5. And hopefully that will change with Nketiah and Gabriel Jesus coming into this season and making that position theirs. And let me know what you guys think about Gabriel Jesus. Goodbye, bad bye, and also about Lisandro Martinez. Speak to you later, guys. Talk to you in the next one. Peace out.